This is Narendra Kumar, and we are from Narendra Academy. And today we will do the chapter 1 of Social Science SSC AP. And the chapter 1 is India Relief Features. So we start with the introduction. We are doing this textbook reading so that we don't miss any point, and the textbook sequence that has been given is very effective in understanding deeply and with great insight the real knowledge required to understand social science. So let's start right away. India Relief Features, Chapter 1, 10th class, APSSC. In this chapter, we shall study about relief features of India. In the subsequent chapters such as climate in India, rivers and water resources, the people, etc., we would be examining the linkages with relief features. So we'll be seeing the links between the relief features which we cover in this chapter and the rest. These features are a reference point that we would need to return often during the course of the book. What are the relief features of Andhra Pradesh that you have read about in earlier classes? Explain with the help of a wall map or your atlas. So first you can do that as an activity. As you study further, use the atlas, wall maps and raised relief maps that are in our school. So the next subheading is location. Look at the world map above and write a few lines about India's location with reference to the places marked on this map. So with reference to the places marked on this map, you have to write a few lines about India's location with reference to the places. This is the page number 1. And this you can do as an activity. The lines of, second one is the lines of latitude and longitude are used for accurately specifying location of any place or region. You know that? So it's the latitude and the longitude. We have done that in our ninth standard. Use the atlas and correct the following statement. So there's a statement given here which you need to correct. India is a very extensive country and lies totally in the southern hemisphere of the globe. The country's mainland lies between 8 degree north and 50 degree north longitude and 68 degrees south and 9 degree east latitude. So this is a small question. It needs to be corrected. This quotation needs to be correct. Now we have further questions here in activity. Why do we often use the term Indian Peninsula? Examine the map 1.1 above and imagine that India is located in the Arctic Circle. How would your life be different? So if India was located in the Arctic Circle, then how would the life be? Identify Indira Point on the atlas and what is special about this. So this is an activity which you all have to do in groups. Andhra Pradesh lies between dash and dash north latitudes and dash east longitudes. Using the scale given in your atlas. So there's a scale given in your atlas. Estimate the length of the coastline for Andhra Pradesh. So these are the small activities which you have to do with the help of your teacher. The geographical location of India provides its vast diversity in climatic conditions. This has led to a variety of vegetation and life forms along with advantages for growing many kinds of crops. Its long coastline and location in the Indian Ocean enabled trade routes as well as fishing. So you can see some good points have come here. The location provides vast diversity in climatic conditions. So if you have a diversity of climatic conditions, so it's not one type of climate, but a diversity. Diversity means many types. This has led to a variety of vegetation. So you have a very different kinds of vegetation and life forms. So it's not that one type of life form is there. So India has got that variety, both of vegetation and life forms, and you can grow a lot of different kinds of crops also. And one more advantage is its long coastline and location. The coastline and location in the Indian Ocean provides routes, trade routes. So it has been a tradition that a lot of trade routes have opened up to India because of its coastline, because you can travel through ship, and also fishing. So this is a small paragraph with a lot of points. In class 9, you had read about longitudes and question of time and travel. From your atlas, one more activity, from your atlas, examine the Indian longitudinal extension. For India, the central longitude 82 degree 30 minutes. East is taken as standard meridian. So you take this because you have to have one time zone, a kind of average one time zone. So 82 degree 30 minutes east has been taken like that, which passes near Allahabad. This is the reference for Indian Standard Time, IST, and it is 5.5 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time, GMT. So you know in the 9th class syllabus what is Greenwich Mean Time, and from that reference, that zero reference, we have 5.5 hours ahead of Greenwich Mean Time. That's what India is. So you have small activities here. Look at the map 2. Trace the boundary for India and color this. With the help of the scale given on the map, find out the total land boundary that India shares with Bangladesh. And you have another small activity here. Which of these data are for rising and setting times for the sun at Ahmedabad and Imphal? Explain your reason. You have to explain your reason. So date 5 January, location sunrise 5:59, sunset 16:37. Location, the second location 7:20 sunrise and 18:05 sunset. Now why do you have those times? That's what he's saying. So this is clearly, you have to link the longitude and the latitude with the time, because you may know the sunrise and sunset determines the time. And now we go to the next unit. Geological background will be the next unit we will cover. Now we come to the next unit, geological background. This is Narendra Kumar and we are from NRK Academy. Geological background. Geological means the constitution of the earth. Geological is a geology, or geological is a term which talks about the real physical geographical concept there. Reread movement of the earth's crust from the class 9th book. You can do that. Indian landmass as part of Gondwana land originated due to geological formations and several other processes like weathering, erosion and deposition. So how was India formed? It's a very interesting point that it had three processes: weathering, erosion and deposition. So the word itself makes the concepts clear. Weathering, erosion and deposition. These processes over millions of years have created and modified. They have created the physical features and modified it also as they appear to us today. So what we see today is the result of processes. Which are the processes? Three processes: weathering, erosion and deposition. World land forms originated from two giant lands, namely Angara land, Laurasia and Gondwana land. So we have read that earlier. So there is a continental drift. This whole earth is not on solid ground, but is on a molten thing. And we have plates which slowly move. So earlier, all this map and all this land that we see had two giant lands together. Then they separated. One was Angara land, Laurasia, and the other was Gondwana land. The Indian peninsula was part of Gondwana land over 200 million years ago. So 200 million, 1 million is 10 lakhs, 10 million is 2 crores, 1 crore. So you have 20 million is 20 crores, and 200 million is 200 million is 2000 crores, 2000 lakhs, and that is a very big number. Over 2000 lakh years ago, or 200 million years ago, Gondwana land split into pieces, and the peninsular Indian plate moved towards northeast and collided with the much larger Eurasian plate, Angara land. This is very fascinating. I mean, 200 million years ago, this India split, means separated from the large Angara land, and it moved and separated from Gondwana land, and it moved and actually clashed with the much larger Eurasian plate called Angara land. Owing to the collision, the dashing, an immense compression force, mountains evolved through a folding process over millions of years. So when these collide, there is a certain folding process. The fold comes because of the collision, and this present form of the Himalayas is a result of this process. So when you see Himalayas, you must realize that these are formed from collisions, and they are fold mountains. The breaking off from the northern corners of the peninsular plateau led to the formation of a large basin. So when the northern corners of the peninsular plateau broke off, it formed a large basin. In the course of time, this basin slowly got filled with sediments deposited by the Himalayan rivers from north and peninsular rivers from south. This created the very extensive flat northern plains of India. So you see how the northern plains of India were formed. The Indian landmass displays great relief variations. The peninsular plateau is one of the most ancient land blocks on the earth's surface. So this peninsular plateau that we see is one of the most ancient land blocks, block means the total, on the earth's surface. So this is a very fascinating piece of information, that how the Himalayas were formed and how the northern plains, large block of northern plains are formed. List the Himalayan rivers. There's an activity here. List the Himalayan rivers and the peninsular rivers that helped the formation of North Indian plain. Second, the formation of Himalayas was dash million years ago, while early hunter-gathering human beings emerged on earth dash million years ago. So he has linked, second question here has linked the formation of India and the coming of life, human life, evolution of early man. Major relief divisions. Now we come to the major relief divisions. Now we know the origin of how India came into being, how the plateau, the plains and the Himalayas came. Now we list out the major relief divisions, and this is the next unit. The next unit is called the major relief divisions. The relief divisions of Indian landmass can be divided into the following groups. 1. The Himalayas. 2. The Indo-Gangetic plain. Himalayas is first. Second, the Indo-Gangetic plain. Third, the peninsular plateau. The peninsular plateau. Fourth, the coastal plains. So, coastal plains. Fifth, the desert. Sixth, the islands. So you can see the whole India has come into picture. First one is Himalayas. Second one is Indo-Gangetic Plain. Third, the peninsular plateau. Fourth, the coastal plains. You have the coastal plains. Fifth, coast means beside the sea. The desert. Sixth, the islands. Now you have a small activity here. Look at the map too and the raised relief map in your school. Using your finger, trace the regions mentioned below. Follow the course of Godavari and Krishna to identify the direction of slope of the Deccan Plateau. We have to identify the slope. Second, describe the entire course of the Brahmaputra river with reference to landforms, heights and countries. So this is a very interesting activity which you all can do in groups. Now we come to the next unit, in which the Himalayas. So the major relief divisions have been explained in the rest of the chapter. The first relief divisions which is going to be explained now is the Himalayas. The Himalayan ranges run in the west-east direction in the form of an arc. Arc is that shape with a distance of about 2,400 kilometers. So it's a very vast range of mountains. 2,400 kilometers. You can imagine 2,400 kilometers. You know the distance from one city to another city near your place. You can extend that. Usually one city in the next city has a distance of, let's say, 40 or 60 kilometers. So this is 2,400. So you can imagine it's a huge landmass. Their width differs from 500 kilometers in the western regions to 200 kilometers in central and eastern regions. So the width varies. It is broader in western regions. There are also altitudinal variations across the regions. Altitudinal means according to altitude. Altitude means height. There are also altitudinal variations across the regions. The Himalayas comprise 3 parallel ranges. These ranges are separated with deep valleys and extensive plateaus. So these ranges are separated by deep valleys and extensive plateaus. The northernmost range is known as Greater Himalayas or Himadri. This range is the most continuous. It doesn't have a break, consisting of the highest peaks means heights, with an average elevation again means height, of about 6,100 meters above mean sea level. So this is the average height. Greater Himalayas are composed of snow and ice cover. You find glaciers here, the seasonal cycle of accumulation of ice, collecting, movement, melting of glaciers are the sources for the perennial rivers. Perennial means continuous rivers, never ending. The portion of land found south of the Greater Himalayas is called Lesser Himalayas. So south of Greater Himalayas you have Lesser Himalayas, which has the most rugged relief. It's very hard like that. Movement, it's not smooth. These ranges are mainly composed of highly compressed rocks. The height ranges from 3,700 to 4,500 meters. The Piripanjal and the Mahabharata ranges form the important ranges of this region. Then next is the Lesser Himalayas. The Lesser Himalayas ranges consist of the famous Valley of Kashmir, the Kangra and Kulu in Himachal Pradesh. So that's where you have this Kulu Manali and Kashmir and all. This region is well known for many hill stations like Shimla, Mussoorie, Nainital, Ranikhet, etc., and are covered by evergreen forests. So these are very beautiful places and very famous, world famous tourist places. You got 2 activities here. Locate the 3 ranges in your atlas. Locate some of the highest peaks in the raised relief map. So this will give you the direct look of the ranges. The second box is trace with your finger on the above regions in the raised relief map and on the wall map. locate the following places on Indian physical map in your atlas. You have to locate Shimla, Mussoorie, Nainital and Raniket. So you have in the page number 6, you have such beautiful pictures. You can have a look at them. And the southernmost range of the Himalayas are the Shivaliks. Shivaliks extend over a width of 10 to 50 kilometers and have an altitude varying from between 900 and 1100 meters. These ranges are called by different names in different regions. So Jammu Hills in Jammu region, Mishmi Hills in Arunachal Pradesh, Kachar in Assam, etc. These parts consist of thick gravel and alluvium. The valleys lying between the lesser Himalayas and Shivalik ranges are called as duns. Dehradun, Kutli Dun, Patli Dun are some of the prominent duns. The easternmost boundary of the Himalayas is the Brahmaputra Valley. In Arunachal Pradesh, beyond the Dihang Valley, the Himalayas take hairpin bends. Hairpin bends means completely U-turn. Hairpin bends to the south and act as eastern boundary of India and run through the northeastern states. These divisions are known as Purvanchal and are mostly composed of sedimentary sandstones. Regionally, the Purvanchal are known as Patkai Hills, the Naga Hills, Manipuri Hills, Khasi and Mizo Hills. Now you can locate the following ranges in Indian physical map of your atlas. Hills, Purvanchal, which is the state or states, Patkai, Naga Hills and Manipuri Hills. So we are getting a whole picture of the whole of India. The formation of the Himalayas influences the climate in various ways. These act as barriers protecting the great plains of India from the cold winds of the Central Asia during severe winter. So these Himalayas become a protective cover. The Himalayas are the reason for summer rains and monsoon type of climate in regions that are beyond the western Ghats of India. In its absence, this region would have remained drier. It would have remained dry. There would have been no rains, but for the Himalayas, it would not have had rains. The Himalayan rivers have a perennial flow since these are fed by the glaciers and bring a lot of silt, making these plains very fertile. So this is the reason why we have such fertile lands, thanks to the Himalayas. So that is a lovely information, clear cut and very focused about the ranges of Himalayas. So you can reread the textbook again and get all these facts clearly in your mind. Now we come to the next section. This is Narendra Kumar from Narendra Academy. The Indo-Gangetic Plain. Indo-Gangetic Plain. The interaction of the three Himalayan rivers, Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra, and their tributaries, which means the rivers which come from those rivers, resulted in the formation of Great Northern Plain. So there was a northern plain formation. In the beginning, about 20 million years ago, it was a shallow basin that was gradually filled with varied different types of alluvial soil that these rivers brought from the Himalayas. So the alluvial soil was brought from the Himalayas. The Indo-Gangetic Plains broadly consists of three divisions. First one, the western part. Second one, the central part. Third one, the eastern part. The western part was formed by the Indus and its tributaries, the Jhelum, the Chenab, the Ravi, the Beas and the Satluj, flowing from the Himalayas. Most of the Indus River basin is located in Pakistan, leaving minor portion of Punjab and Haryana plains in India. In this region, the Doab features dominate the fertile land between the two rivers. Second one, the central part is known as the Ganga plain. It extends from the rivers Ghagar to Teesta. This part is mainly spread in the states of Uttar Pradesh, Bihar and partly in Haryana, Jharkhand and West Bengal. Here the river Ganga, Yamuna and their tributaries, Sone, Kosi, etc. drain. Third one, the eastern part of the plain exists mostly in the Brahmaputra valley of Assam, and the river Brahmaputra is mainly responsible for its formation. The Himalayan rivers, while flowing down, deposit gravel and pebble sediments in a narrow belt of 8 to 16 kilometers width, found parallel to foothills of Shivaliks. This feature is known as Bhabar. Bhabar is porous in nature. Small rivers and streams flow underground through Bhabar and reappear in lower areas and form a swampy and marshy region called Terai. The region had thick forest and rich variety of wildlife. However, owing to migrations at the time of India's partition, most of the Terai zone has now been cleared and used for agricultural operations. South of the Terai region, fine alluvial plain regions are found. So there are a lot of facts here and very fascinating facts. This gives you a complete picture, detailed picture. So you must reread and reread this part and grasp all the points clearly. And that completes the unit of the Indo-Gangetic plain. So you have this Himalayas, the Indo-Gangetic plain. Now our next unit would be the peninsular plateaus. Peninsular plateaus. The Indian plateau is known as the peninsular plateau as it is surrounded by the sea on three sides. You know that. It is mainly composed of the old, crystalline, hard, igneous and metamorphic rock. Large amounts of metallic and non-metallic mineral resources are found in the Indian plateau. It has broad and shallow valleys with rounded hills. The topography of the plateau is slightly tilted towards east, and the western and eastern ghats form the western and eastern edges respectively. The southernmost tip of the plateau is Kanyakumari. The peninsular plateau consists of two broad divisions, namely Central Highlands, Malwa Plateau, and the Deccan Plateau. Deccan means south. On physical map of India, adjunct to, beside and south of the Gangetic Plains and north of the river Narmada, you can identify Central Highlands. Prominent plateaus here are Malwa Plateau on the western side, and towards the east there is a Chota Nagpur Plateau. In comparison to the Gangetic Plains, the plateau region is dry. The rivers are not perennial, not always flowing. The irrigation for the second crop depends on deep tube wells and tanks. Without that, you can't do the irrigation. Identify rivers that flow in the northern side of Central Highlands. Chota Nagpur Plateau is rich in mineral resources. The portion of peninsular plateau lying in the south of Narmada, a triangular landmass, is called the Deccan Plateau. Satpura range forms the Deccan Plateau's north edge, while the Mahadev, the Kaimur range, and the portion of Maikal range are the eastern edges. Western Ghats, Eastern Ghats, and Nilgiris form western, eastern, and southern boundaries respectively. So now we have another activity here. Locate the following on the Indian physical map of your atlas and on the raised relief map. Now you have to locate these places: Malwa Plateau, Bundelkhand, Baghelkhand, Rajmahal Hills, and Chota Nagpur Plateau. Using an atlas, compare the relative heights of above plateaus with that of the Tibetan Plateau. So he has told you to compare with the Tibetan Plateau. The Western Ghats lie parallel to the west coast. lie parallel to the west coast, the Western Ghats. The structure of Western Ghats is continuous with a few passes as the gateways to the coastal plains. The Western Ghats are higher than the Eastern Ghats. Thus, for the Deccan Plateau region, west-east slope is seen. So, west-east slope, it slopes like that. You can see the figure 1.9. The Western Ghats extend for 1600 kilometers. Near Gudlur, the Nilgiris join the Western Ghats and they rise to over a height of about 2000 meters. The famous hill station, Udagamandalam, popularly known as Ooty, we know Ooty, is located in Nilgiris Doda Betta, 2637 meters is the highest peak. Western Ghats include the Annamalai, Palani, Tamil Nadu and Kadamom, Kerala hills. Anaimudi, 2695 meters and Annamalai hills is the highest peak in South India. The Eastern Ghats extend from Mahanadi Valley in the north to Nilgiris in the south. However, the Eastern Ghats are not continuous. Rivers that originate in Western Ghats like Godavari and Krishna cut across the plateau and join the Bay of Bengal. The average height of the Eastern Ghats rarely exceeds 900 meters. The highest peak in Eastern Ghats is Aroya Konda, found at Chintapalli, 1680 meters in Andhra Pradesh. Nalamallas, Velikondas, Palakondas and Seshachala are some of the hilly tracts of Eastern Ghats. One of the remarkable features of the peninsular plateau is black soils formed due to volcanic activity. So these black soils have come from volcanic activity. And that completes our understanding and wonderful facts of the peninsular plateaus. The next topic is the Thar Desert. The Thar Desert is located on the leeward side of Aravallis and receives very low amount of rainfall, ranging from only 100 to 150 millimeter per year. So there's a rainfall index. The desert consists of an undulating, that is up and down, undulating sandy plain and rocky outcrops. It occupies much of western Rajasthan. It has an arid climate with very low vegetation cover. Streams appear during rainy season and disappear soon after. Luni is the only river in this area. These internal drainage rivers fill into the lakes and don't reach the sea. So they don't reach the sea, these internal drainage rivers. Indira Gandhi Canal, which is the largest canal in the country, 650 kilometers, watering part of Thar Desert. Hence, several hectares of desert land have been brought under cultivation. So that's how they brought it under cultivation. And now we go to the next topic, the coastal plains. The southern part of the peninsular plateau is bordered by narrow coastal plains along the Arabian Sea on the west and the Bay of Bengal on the east. The western coast starts from the Rann of Kutch and ends at Kanyakumari. It is narrower than east coast. This plain is uneven and broken by hilly terrain. It can be divided into three parts. Konkan coast, this is the northern part. It touches Maharashtra and Goa. Second, Canara, this is the middle part. It includes coastal plains of Karnataka. And third is Malabar coast. This is the southern part, mostly in the state of Kerala. So these are the coastal plains. Bay of Bengal plains are wide and have large surface structure. It stretches from Mahanadi in Odisha to Kaveri deltas in Tamil Nadu. These plains are formed by rivers Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna and Kaveri and are very fertile. These coastal plains are known locally by different names. Utkal coast, Odisha, Sirkar coast, Andhra Pradesh, Coromandel coast, Tamil Nadu. Like the Indo-Gangetic plains, these deltas too are agriculturally developed. So now we know why these regions are agriculturally developed. Coastal zone also enables rich fishing resources, obviously. Lakes like Chilka in Odisha and Kolleru and Pulicot, Andhra Pradesh are other important features of the coastal plain. And finally, we have the final unit which would complete this chapter, the islands. You know, there are islands. There are two groups of islands, Andaman and Nicobar Islands, stretched in Bay of Bengal and Lakshadweep Islands in the Arabian Sea. Andaman and Nicobar Islands is an elevated portion of submerged mountain parts running from Myanmar mountain Arkan Yoma. In Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Narcondam and Barren Islands are have volcanic origin. The southernmost tip of India is found in Nicobar Island and is called Lakshadweep, is called as Indira Point, which was submerged during the 2004 tsunami. Lakshadweep Islands are of coral region. Its total geographic area is 32 square kilometers, that's all. This group of island is famous for a great variety of flora and fauna. In conclusion, it is important to note that there is a vast diversity in the landforms in which Indian people live. Now you can understand why India geographically has so much diversity, so much even different types of living styles, because one region differs in a big way from other regions. One region is fertile, the other region is deserted. One region is a plateau, the other region is a plain. There are Himalayan regions. So if you, in your mind, you can imagine what a rich feature we have. All these facts must be reread again and again, and you will fix that picture of India, all its parts, and that extraordinary variety that India has in your mind. You must fix it in your mind. That is our great India. In conclusion, it is important to note that there is a vast diversity in the landforms in which Indian people live. Some areas are irrigated by the mighty rivers flowing from the Himalayas, and some by the rain-fed rivers from Western Ghats and its forests. Many places are located in the river valleys and others in the mountains. So that completes the chapter. We have the key words which you should know the meaning of: perennial, coral reefs, coastal plains, peninsula, Laurasia, Angara land, Dun, Gondwara land, Shivalik, Purvanchal, and Leeward. So these are the clear-cut words. There are many other words which also came along as we read the textbook, and now we must read the textbook again and again and again. This is just to facilitate a clarity about reading, to just guide you into the reading of the textbook. I hope you will be able to read the textbook at least 3 or 4 times, get all the facts in your head, and get a lovely picture of India. Thank you so much. This completes the chapter 1, 10th class, social textbook, AP, SSC. Thank you so much. This is Narendra Kumar signing out now.